Hey class, so if you haven't already checked your email on Canvas, make sure you check that. I have some more details, but it has some changes of how things are going to be graded and show up in the grade book with our change and e-learning and all that stuff. You're just not going to have the time to put forth in the Aleks program. So it doesn't mean we're not using Aleks. It's just not going to pull 50% of your grade. So the assignments that you do at the end are sort of exit slips, as we had been calling them. Those are going to start counting for a grade. There's some other things in there, so just make sure you read that. We are going to then go through today, and we are going to be looking at slope. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what slope is, how we calculate slope, just in general, what is slope? Okay, so the first thing that we need to know is slope can be represented a couple different ways. So the first thing we need to know is that the letter M is what we use to represent slope. I don't really know the answer why. If we were in class, that'd be an Ask Mrs. McKinney question. But for some reason, slope has become sort of our letter that we use. M is slope. Okay, and slope can be done as rise over run. Okay, we can use a formula to find it, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, and it is the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so those are sort of our pieces we need to know for slope. When we are talking about slope, we sort of use these different options to calculate the slope based on what we are given. And when we find slope, there are three types of slopes that we can have. Okay, we can have something that is either an uphill or downhill line. We can have something that is horizontal, or we can have something that is vertical. Okay, so a line going this way, right, is our horizontal. A line going up and down is our vertical. Okay, a horizontal slope or a line that goes right and left always has a slope of 0. So we can either write the number 0 or we can write out that it has no slope or a slope of 0. We can write out the words like Z-E-R-O. Okay, a vertical line and line that goes up and down has a slope of undefined. Oops, there we go. Okay, undefined slope means like it's not possible to actually kind of put your feet on it, right? You'd be falling off a cliff here. You can't walk on a slope that's up and down. Okay, then we have our slope that's sort of going up or down, and that gets a numerical value. Okay, that value tells us how steep or how shallow the line is. So if the line is going uphill, it's going to have some type of number that is positive. And if the line is going downhill, it's going to have some type of number that is negative. Okay, so these slopes are getting positive or negative numbers. Horizontal is a slope of 0, and vertical is a slope of undefined. Now, I did attach on Canvas a place that you could print out the graphs, but if you don't have a printer, it's fine. Just pause this video and draw a graph in your notes. Okay, so what we're going to do is what happens if we want to find the slope of a line that's given to us. So the first thing that we'll need to find the slope of a line that's given to us is we'll need 2 points on the line. Okay, so we're just going to look at the line visually and we're going to find 2 points. Okay, so maybe I give you a line that has a point here at 2 on the y-axis and a point at 2, 5, right? And this is what our line looks like. Okay, and if we want to find the slope of the line, sorry, I keep kicking the table and shaking the camera. If we want to find the slope of the line, okay, we find slope from a graph by using that rise over run. Now notice this is a fraction. Okay, it basically is what it says. Okay, we're going to start at 1 point. You can start at either point. It doesn't matter. I tend to start at whichever point is lower and to the left. Okay, if you want to start at upper points, you can. It doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to count from this point, how many would we have to go up to get to the same level as this point, right? So this upper point is at this level, at this line. So how many would I have to go up to get to that level? Where I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. So I did a rise of 3. Okay, then I'm going to calculate how many do I have to run, how many do I have to go over to get to the point. So I have to go over 1, 2. Now the number that was the rise, that was the up and down, goes on top. So we would say that our slope is 3 over 2. Now, one thing that's really important is that slope is always reduced in proper fraction form. So no decimals. So no writing this as 1.5. No writing this as a mixed number of 1.5. It has to be in this format, reduced and improper. Okay, so let's look at another one. Maybe we have a point at -4, 4. Okay, and at 2, -2. So here's our line. We have our 2 good points. So again, I do whatever is either lower or left. Okay, so here I do lower first usually, but okay, so if I start here, I'll show you both ways so you can see both ways. I'm going to count how many I rise. Okay, so what do I have to do to get up to the same level as this point? So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I go up 6, and then I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this is important. Whenever you count left or down, okay, if we count left or if we count down, we're gonna make the number negative. Okay, so when I went up, that was positive because I went up. But then I went left, so I'm gonna make that a -6. Okay, so I'm gonna do my rise, which is 6, over my run, which was -6. Now again, this needs to be reduced in proper fraction form, so I need to reduce my 6 over -6. So 6 over -6 gives me a -1, and so my slope on this would be -1. Okay, you'll notice that if the line is going uphill, we will get a positive slope. And if the line is going downhill, we will get a negative slope. Now, again, like I said, you could start at either point. So if you chose to start here, as long as you're doing your vertical motion first, right? So we want to get down to this level. So we're going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I went down, so I'm making it -6. Okay, and then I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I went right 6, so that's a +6. So now I have -6 over a +6, which still gives me a slope of -1. So it doesn't matter which point you start at as long as you make sure you're counting for the negative appropriately. Okay, so that's one way we can find slope. Another way that we might be asked to find slope is if we are given 2 points. Okay, so maybe we are asked to find the slope between 2 points. So what happens if we are given the points 4, 8 and 6, 16? Whenever we are asked to find slope between 2 points, we are going to want to use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, it's that same formula we wrote down up here. Okay, and what this says is that every ordered pair has a value that is an x and a y, right? The x always comes first. The y always comes second. So in my first point, I'm going to say that this is my first x and my first y, and this is my second x and my second y. Now I'm writing those numbers like to the bottom right of it because I don't want to treat it like an exponent. I'm just identifying that it's the first or the second, so we call that a subscript. Okay. And then I'm just going to take the formula that I have and I'm going to start replacing each letter with its new number. Okay, so my X1 is 4. So in my X1 position, I'm going to put a 4. My Y1 is 8. Now that subtraction is part of the formula, so it stays there. My X2 is 6. And my Y2 is 16. Okay, so this now says 16 minus 8 over 6 minus 4. And then you can use your calculator or whatever you want to do to simplify this, right? 16 minus 8 is 8. And 6 minus 4 is 2. Just like we said before, we need this to be in reduced improper fraction form. Okay, so reduced improper fraction form means 8 divided by 2 is 4, and we will get a slope of 4. Okay? So let's look at another one. Say we have negative 5, comma 7, and negative 1, comma negative 11. So again, I have an X and Y value. I have my first one, and I have my second one. Okay, so I'm going to do Y2. So Y2 is negative 11 minus, that minus is part of the formula, minus Y1, which is 7, over X2, which is negative 1, minus, because again, that's part of the formula, and then my X1 is negative 5. So I get the negative that was part of the formula, the subtraction, and the negative that was part of the number. So again, if you don't feel super confident with your negatives, use your calculator to check yourself. So negative 11 minus 7 will give us a negative 18. A negative 1 minus a negative 5, again, you could just type that in your calculator, will give us a 4. But we need this reduced. So your choices are, you either know how to reduce and you divide them each by 2, or in your calculator, if we do negative 18, ABC 4, okay, it's gonna reduce it, but it gives it to us in a mixed number. So we need to change this into an improper by doing second ABC, and we'll get a reduced fraction of negative 9 over 2. Okay, then just 2 more quick examples I want to look at to make sure we're okay when the weird stuff happens. It's not that weird, but let's say we want to find the slope between negative 2 comma 5 and negative 2 comma 10. Okay, so we have our X and our Y. We have our first one, and we have our second one. We're using that same formula. Okay, so X2 is negative 2 minus negative 2, and 10 minus 5, right? I'm just filling in each of those numbers. So my X2 went where my X2 goes. My Y2 went where my Y2 goes. So 10 minus 5 gives me 5. And negative 2 minus negative 2 gives me 0. So if I put into my calculator 5ABC0, I am going to get this error. Because when 0 is on the bottom, this is our undefined slope. Fractions cannot have 0 on the bottom. Okay, so 0 on the bottom is our undefined slope. So we would that's what we would say. In Aleks, you would be able to click the words undefined slope. Now, let's say we wanted 4 comma 6 and 3 comma 6. So we're going to find the slope there. Okay, so again, we're going to do our y2, right? Our y2 minus our y1 over our x2 minus our x1. So 6 minus 6 is 0. And 3 minus 4 is -1. Okay, so if we put this in our calculator, now if I do the ABC, it's going to tell me a syntax error, which is different than the dividing by. So I'm going to do, remember, 0 divided by -1 gives me 0. We can't have a negative on the denominator. And so this gives me an answer of 0. So this is a slope of 0, m equals 0. So you are going to go into Aleks and complete your e-learning for today. All right, when you complete that, you can retake it. It'll just be a quick retake, but that is a grade that will then go into Power School. Okay, we will be using that grade and it will go in the grade book. Let me know if you have any questions. You can email me. You can sign up for an appointment on my calendar. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day.